We are live on YouTube.
Shall I let people in?
Yeah, so you
yeah, sure. Let people in. That'd be awesome. Thank you.
I will close participants now.
We are streaming. Hello, everybody.
So, hello, everyone.
Hello.
There's still, I could see some audios getting connected.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Wednesday Web Jam, number 20, big number.
Woo!
I think, woo. Cool. We are happy to see everybody here.
Yeah,
I start to filter in.
I can see Yussi coming back.
Hi, Yussi.
That's always a good sign.
Yussi, right? You're coming back for more after your session.
Can I point out it's Daphne's first time?
Where is Daphne? I can't see her image.
Daphne has a video off,
yep,
I believe.
Yep.
Welcome,
yeah,
so
last time was so great that I just had to see the next one.
So welcome to these sessions, Daphne. We heard some good things about you from Mim. And welcome, Ilka.
Hi.
I think it might also be your first session. I'm not sure. My dear, you're on mute. That's the most famous sentence in 2020.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. It's not my first session, no.
Oh my goodness, my mistake then.
Okay. It's my third, I think.
Okay, so welcome to today. I'll be the host today. Actually, it's Mark hosting. I'll just be doing the chatting. Yeah.
You'll hear a lot more of his voice than my voice.
Hey, Ilka, back from holiday.
And I can also see Jennifer Summer and Jen. And we have two Jennifers, and we have Jen, one down under, basically in South Africa, and Jennifer Summer. Where are you based?
I'm in Alabama, United
All right,
States.
so welcome.
Thanks.
And I see a new name, Zoltan Makiar.
Hey everybody, yes, it's me. I'm calling from Hungary.
Yeah, I guess from the name Magyar, yeah.
Yeah, that means Hungary, actually.
Exactly.
And this is my first session, and to be honest, I don't know what is it all about. I'm just interested in design thinking, so that's why I'm here.
Okay, so you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome for fun.
Yeah. So there's a number of participants who became quite regular. So you might suddenly find that somehow a lot of people chat to each other in a very natural way, Zoltan, but don't be intimidated by that. And you will feel very at home very soon. Yeah.
Thank you.
So welcome.
And if you feel intimidated, please shout out.
Exactly.
We're going to rescue you.
Okay.
So, hello, Maria. Hello, Jimena. We have a small secret. Jimena will go next week. It will be her turn to be speaking at the Wednesday Web Jams.
Yeah. He's going to reveal the cure for COVID or something major, right?
Yes, I think
that's what I heard.
Not a secret anymore. This is our 20th session.
Yes,
it is amazing.
So I've been the 20th, like at the whole.
You have been at all of them.
All of them.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not sure if I will continue, but
wait until session 25, and we'll offer you something special.
50.
Full attendance.
Okay, Pedro, this is recorded, huh? And you know how we are.
Oh my goodness, yes. So
we
now
will
I have
chase you down in Portugal to get it.
Exactly. So I'll be chased for this one.
How many sessions does it take to get a free bottle of Porto, Pedro? Like
that's about 50 sessions.
Okay.
Yes. Let's see if we survive 50.
Hi, Michael.
And hello,
Hello,
Michael.
everyone.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Welcome back.
Thank
So
you.
we're still in our decompression zone, so it will start at the top of the hour. But right now, I feel we are indeed part of a cult by now. I feel because we kind of know a few of our participants. You are all very welcome. Mark, we're still 1 minute too short to start the whole show.
I wouldn't use the word short, Pedro.
No, it will be. So
that's being heightist, I think.
Let me get my props ready.
We're just shy by about 2 minutes shy of the hour.
Okay. Pedro, second prop.
Pedro's in at the beach, as you can tell. That's not a Zoom background. That's the real deal.
It's also not home.
No, right.
This is all mine, actually. This is all mine. Every tree, that tree also. No. And I have to thank you very much for being here in August, which we thought, everyone will be on holiday. Who will care to jump on one of these sessions? And so thank you very much for caring and joining in today.
Absolutely. And Ezekiel, do you have the link to the mural that we're going to use today?
I have it handy. You guys just tell me when you want it in the chat.
Yeah. Why don't you throw it in the chat, because we wanted to make sure that people that are joining now have access to Mural. And if you're having any problems or struggling getting into Mural, we're going to be using that today. If you're not familiar with it, Mural is a sort of a virtual whiteboard tool. Many of you who are familiar have been in there before, but we want to make sure you can get in. Once you're in, once you click on the link in the chat, then you don't have to log in. You can opt out of that, but you can also add your name to as you go in, and that will be helpful for the people that you're going to be collaborating with to know who indeed is in your breakout room with you. So yeah, well, that'll be one of the first things that we do here. And maybe I'll just kick things off.
Yep.
Welcome
ready.
everybody. Welcome. You'll be hearing ding ding noises probably on my end, because those are all the Zoom alerts saying that people are arriving. But we welcome all of our friends and all of our new friends to Wednesday Web Jam. This is number 20. That's 2 N's. It's a big deal for us to have everybody come back and be part of our little circus that we've created. Just a few words about for folks who haven't been here before, about what this is all about. Wednesday Web Jam is an experimental space where designers and service designers and innovators and leaders and creative people and just people who want to be part of this wonderful tribe and family that we have come every Wednesday at the same hour to listen to a guest speaker, to experiment with different things, to stretch our imaginations and our creativity. So that's what we're doing. There is no other way. We are moving forward together as a group, and we welcome you all to this session. This week we have one of our own team, Pedro Janeiro, who many of you are familiar with. Pedro is the managing partner of DesignThinkers Group in Portugal and one of our global partners and colleagues, and has been instrumental and founder of this Web Jam thing. And Pedro is going to walk us through some of the tips and tricks for ideation or structured brainstorming that we use in DesignThinkers Group and in DesignThinkers Academy. And with that, Pedro, I'm going to hand it over to you. And
thank you very much.
I'll stop the screen share.
Okay, let me just adjust my table a little bit, because the sun is moving and I have to move with the sun. Okay, so welcome. Thank you very much for putting up with me today. I will talk a bit about creativity, and I will try to move us all a bit further from the basic mechanics of just saying creativity is about brainstorms and let's just get all together in a room and do brainstorming and have some idea. So let's move further from just that basic concept. And to start with, let me try to define a little bit what is creativity and how it works. So at a very, very basic level, the essence of creativity, the way it happens in your brain is when you have some concept just floating around. And I'll just bring one concept around. So I'll bring a bottle of port wine. It's white wine, white port wine. And you're having your port wine, and then someone asks for gin and tonic. And the gin and tonic arrives, and it comes in so you have the glass, and in a separate small bottle, there's the tonic water. And suddenly you're stirring your drink and you're wondering, you know what? If I mixed tonic water with port wine, what would happen? And so the first thought floating around is just the port wine. And suddenly there's a second thought that hadn't been mixed before with the first one. And so you see the tonic water. And the two of them collide in your brain. And suddenly that's the moment that usually is represented by a light bulb on the top of your head, just lighting up, and you have all this ecstasy inside you thinking, I had an idea. And so you start pouring a bit of tonic water into your dry port wine. It does have to be dry. You mix it, and then you taste it, and you wonder if it really is a drink worth drinking. It certainly is a drink worth drinking. So I didn't invent it, but this is at its essence, creativity. It's something that was flying around in your brain, something else that was probably activated recently. Perhaps, let's say, perhaps I went to a bar yesterday and then I saw this amazing barman just doing his mixology tricks. And so today I felt kind of inspired to say, what if I try something like that? So I saw something yesterday that activated some pattern of thinking in my brain. And today I made a combination that I had done before. So this combination of something, joining something that hadn't been joined before, that's the very, very essence of creativity. So I want to do an exercise with you guys and let you do precisely something now, just to let you experiment, not with a wonderful tonic port, but with something else. So let me share my screen. And so if I share my screen, I can show you this. Let's see. Whoa, whoop. So hope you can see in one cell phone, yep, one lamp. And I want to give you a couple of minutes, perhaps just 1 minute, to combine the two of them and produce something new. So this something new might be metaphorical, or might be quite literal, that you actually combine the two things, or just deconstructive, that you take parts of each and try to build something new. So you can imagine some usefulness to bring these two together, literally, metaphorically, or in a deconstructive way. So I'll give you a minute to think about it, and then I'll ask some suggestions from the group. What did you come up with? So what interesting ideas did you have by combining these two that I guess you hadn't combined before in your head?
Yeah, and don't
And you
forget,
can-
if you want to speak, you need to take yourself off of mute.
Yeah, please do unmute yourself and bring your ideas forward. Yep, anyone?
So I got real literal for a minute there and
Yeah.
thinking about a flat lighting surface that just sits on top of a surface and then radiates light throughout the room. So it's really
Yeah.
small, but creates light all throughout the room.
Yeah, so actually the cell phone could actually replace the lamp in a way.
I
and you
had the
could-
same one.
Yep, we could actually perhaps structure something around it that would diffuse in a way the light coming from the cell phone. That would be a nice one, yes, indeed. Other ideas that you'd like to present?
You can have lamps that talk to other lamps.
Okay.
Yes, how would that work? Guide me through that idea.
Oh, I don't know.
But
When
it's a
one
wonderful
comes on,
start.
it decides, it has a chat to the other lamp to see
Yeah.
if the other lamp needs to come on. If it's too dark.
Yeah, so if like you're walking around the house and suddenly lamps say, he's coming, or she's coming, and so they light up and for you. Or perhaps lamps
Yeah.
say, is it good light around? No, so let's light up the room. Yeah, that would be interesting, actually listening to their conversation. And you could have lamps talking back to you, saying, like Jim was here 10 minutes ago. Oh, so you could ask the lamp. So what was Jim here doing here? So yeah, you could have a more, lamps could suddenly become some kind of talking entities. So we could have kind of a Siri or Alexa inside lamps.
That's what I was thinking. Something like Alexa, like the lamp was kind of like Alexa. And so the lamp, you could just talk to any lamp in the house and it'd be, integrated into the phone system.
Yeah. What other ideas would you have?
One more.
I actually turned the lamp into a flash for the phone. So I have a photography background. So I just said, that kind of incandescent light would be a really nice aura as a flash.
Yep.
So I would kind of deconstruct the lamp and combine it somehow or connect it somehow via a tripcord and a cable, and it would become my flash. If you think of Ouija back in the day or Brasserie, back in those days of those handheld flashes with the cameras, I kind of went there.
Right, okay, wonderful. So,
sorry.
Go ahead, one last. Yeah.
I focus on the lake of the lamp. If I think that it could be a case of the cell phone, and then when we use a lamp, a flashlight on the phone as a lamp, it could stand so that we don't need to carry the legs to attach the phone after, like that.
Wonderful. Okay. So I actually met this famous for me Portuguese scholar who is developing paper screens. And so, and they're brilliant. So we could actually have the same lamp with all the paper around. We could use the lamp to navigate on our cell phone. So you would see a bigger image and just rotate the image on your cell phone, on your lamp now. So that would be my contribution. So when we have these ideas, some people enjoy to immediately fly around, just go wild and try something that is way out there. And other people feel that they need to go a bit slower and they will take more incremental ideas. And so when you're working with a group, you need to try to guide the whole group in a wave of growing their confidence into bringing more disruptive concepts. Especially if you're working with people who are not used to working in creative mode. You have to perhaps give them some room to get out those first incremental ideas, then you can give them some exercises that will make them do something a bit more disruptive, and towards the end, you can give them something a bit more flashy that will provoke them and make them think in a more aggressive, disruptive way. If you try something too aggressive, too early, most people will actually revolt against you, and they'll perhaps even refuse to do the exercise with you. And so when you're planning to be creative with your teams, you have to be very aware of what is the mode in which they are, and you have to provide the space for them to be able to evolve. And so let's try to go through the experience during this session, trying to bring all of these different levels. And I want to share with you now our mural, and we'll be doing an exercise in mural, which I have to, again, share my screen. I will tell you a little secret, which is when I'm sharing my screen, I barely see my mouse. And so if something goes wrong here, because there's so much light around me, that I might not be able to see all that I need to show.
Do you want me to share my screen instead?
That might be better. If you can, if you can do the mural demo, Mark, that would be brilliant, because there's so much light here.
Let me just jump in then, and I'll do the mural demo. Are you guys seeing my screen now? Yeah. Okay. So mural in 1 minute. Time me, somebody. I'm going to try to do this. So you can go to the lower right corner of your screen, and down here you see this little
By the way, Mark, we need to tell people that we have the link for the mural on our chat. And so for all our participants, especially the new ones, if you go to the chat function here on Zoom, you will find a link where Mark is, and you'll log in very quickly.
That you've taken 5 of my seconds. Okay, so mural, in the lower right-hand corner of mural, you have a zoom setting. So if you're using a trackpad or a mouse, you can set it up so that you can zoom and pan. So zooming is obviously going in, and pan is moving around, right? Like that. So what I'm going to do, this is what the mural looks like. It's got 12 rooms. You're going to be put into breakout rooms, and you'll go to your space. The first thing that Pedro is going to, these are the ideation activities that we're going to do. You're going to have a challenge that Pedro is going to talk to you about in a minute. The information about the challenge is at the top, and then you'll have a first activity, then a second and a third activity with the yellow band across the top. And then as you go in as a team, you'll be in groups of 4 or 5 people. You'll double click onto the Post-it note and type something, and then that's your idea. And then you'll go to the next one, double click and type, and that's your next idea. Okay, there you go. So thank you for timing me. That is mural. And if most of you will have somebody in your room who can help you out, and you can decide to type your own Post-it notes, or you can have one person type all the Post-it notes. Over to you, Pedro.
Thank you very much. So I will explain the next exercise. And meanwhile, I hope you can actually log in into Zoom. So again, I remind you, we have the link for this, link for mural. You will find it on our chat, and I'll ask you to jump on board, and we'll soon put you in one of the rooms, but you will be working on that mural. So let me explain the exercise. Again, I do need to share my screen. And so I will be, let me see if I can see my mouse this time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, something I can't do. Let me still hang on a bit. Yeah, okay, now everything is perfect. Okay, so first we'll have 3 teams working in, we have several teams with 3 topics. We'll be working a topic around wine. We'll be working a topic about cheese, and we'll also have a topic about TV sets. So wine is my favorite topic, but considering that we might have some Muslim participants, we'll also have different topics like cheese. Considering that we might have some vegan participants, we have TV sets. And if you don't like wine, cheese, and TV sets, you're in the wrong meeting. So
it's okay. It's okay. You can design for people who aren't you as well.
Yes, exactly. So let me explain the wine challenge. Wine challenge. How might we choose wine at the supermarket within our defined budget, not fearing to make a bad choice, and perhaps even being surprised by the choice you've made? a little bit of research data. This research data, some of it is true, some of it is adapted for this exercise. So don't take it so seriously, or don't open a supermarket based on this research. So one bit of information: consumers feel lost with the wide assortment that sometimes goes over 500 different brands of wine. Also, consumers feel very afraid of choosing the wrong wine because they're not experts. Most people are not experts on wine. Also, the average consumer enjoys to be surprised by a good wine that they were not expecting. They tried their luck and they draw great wine. So that's a really interesting pleasure to get. Also, consumers hate to be embarrassed with families and friends. If you make a bad choice, you invite people over for dinner at home and suddenly wine is terrible, you feel deeply frustrated. So when you show up at the supermarket and you face this alley full with all of these different bottles of wine, how do you make a good choice? That's your challenge. The cheese team has a very similar challenge. How might you discover a new cheese at the supermarket without having to taste 100 different ones? So again, there's a wide assortment of cheese at your average supermarket. Consumers fear choosing a new cheese with unpleasant flavors. I do remember Gommelost from Norway, which was a tremendous surprise for me. A difficult one, I have to say. And consumers also tend to stick to the same 3 to 5 cheeses for a very long period of time, which is really a pity. People should really try a very good number of cheeses. Cheese is such a wonderful thing. Final one, TV teams. TV sets, they're almost impossible to understand for the average consumer. It's very difficult to compare the technical differences. Online comparisons actually are worthless. They're not helpful at all. And store staff struggles to explain the differences and tends also to oversell some of the models because they do have instructions for that. So how might you choose a TV set that, being within our budget and the static options, will be the best technical choice? So these are your 3 challenges, and you will be allocated to one room where you have to solve them. Well, the very first challenge is quite simple from an ideation perspective. The first challenge is just what we call just your first burst. So you just drop whatever ideas you have. Don't think too much about them. The intention is to empty your head from the ideas you already have now to prepare yourselves for the next wave of more disruptive ideas. So Mark, I think we're probably ready to send everyone into.
We are absolutely ready. Ezekiel, if you would just, before we go into the breakout rooms, if you would please repost that link in the chat. Awesome. Thank you very much. And everybody, if you haven't been in Zoom before, you're new to the world. You must be an alien. But anyway, I'm gonna hit the hyperspace button, and you're gonna go off into breakout rooms of 4 to 5 people, and you're gonna go into. And what we want you to do is click on that mural link, and then collaborate with your team on this next ideation activity, which is, Pedro, very quickly, the description.
First burst.
First burst. What are they doing?
You just have to dump your ideas, the ones you have in your head. Just write them down, get rid of them. You do it individually. Don't try to work collectively. But once you write down 2 or 3 or 4 ideas, you can start sharing them a bit. But we have a limited amount of time.
Okay, so just work in that little area that says first burst underneath there with the little post-it notes on the left with your team. And when you get put in your breakout room, go to the space on the mural that says your room number at the top in red. We'll see you guys in
5 minutes.
5 minutes. You need to click on the little I accept to go to the breakout room button. Perfect. Everybody's zooming out of here. Hello. If you can hear my voice and you're still here and you're having a problem getting into your breakout room, please turn on your video and let me know. I think it's just the three of us boys.
So
No, I
it's
have not been able. I think I've not been allotted a breakout room.
Okay, who is that speaking?
Sankalita.
Okay, let me put you, you may have come a little bit late. Let me just put you into.
No, I had got bumped out.
Oh, you got
okay.
I came back in.
Kalita, let me just see if I can get you in here. Okay, let me put you in room 1.
I was in room 2 and there was no one there, so I came back.
Okay.
Oh, that's weird. That
So
is
let's
very
put,
weird.
so we have Mimp, Daphne, Denise, and Peruskia. If we put all of them in room 2, that should be fine.
Yeah. Okay.
I think I've got it. 3.
Mark is doing his magic.
All this technology.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's about 35 centigrades out here.
Daphne,
Daphne.
Daphne.
Is she here? Mim, you
Yeah.
need to, for some reason, I've assigned you to a room and you're not going. That's kind of strange. You need.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you need to hit the button. Daphne, are you there?
I'm.
No,
she's
there
gone.
we go. All right.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So we're in Hollywood now, guys.
We're in Hollywood. So this is just the first level of the exercise. Is just to let these participants experiment with emptying their brain from the basic ideas before we push them into more sophisticated ones.
Right. So I forgot to set the timer. They've been in there for what, a minute?
Yeah.
Okay. And we said 5 minutes. Why don't we give them
4
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just going to set my timer.
Yep. So Pedro, how do clients, when you're actually doing this live, what's the reaction from clients? What's the pattern that you see? Is it hard for them or easy or?
Yeah,
whatever?
it's surprisingly easy to do this very first exercise and then difficult to evolve. So people are okay with sharing their first level of ideas. And also that's what you usually get at a brainstorm. You know, you go through the first level of ideation. And brainstorming is pretty much an art. It's difficult to master. It takes a long time to get a good experience at it. And so if you just have a group of people who are not used to do creative work and you force them into being in a brainstorm, you really have to know what you're doing to be able to extract the most value out of them. And these little simple techniques, just saying, look, let's just get through the first ideation and then let's go into the more complex ideas, driving them slowly, helping them to go through the ideation sequence, the ideation path, to give them confidence and give them creative confidence. That's the key to then bring these, but most of the time, these experts in their fields that we need them to provide different types of ideas into our projects.
Yeah, generally with Mark and I collaborate a lot. So we see that this is a very satisfying moment for people who have been getting to know a problem and been holding back from solutioning as best as we can, because holding back, it's hard for everybody. And so it's like a release, right? Like, finally.
Exactly.
To get some ideas down.
Yeah, the gates are open, they let the ideas out. And it's really important that we force them actually to get those ideas out. And then they think like, okay, job's done. We gave our ideas. And people at this point say, if I ask you for 5 more ideas, they do struggle. And I actually thought perhaps we would do that. We would do here an exercise saying, you have to give 8 different ideas or 10 in just 5 minutes. And people would struggle a lot. They struggle because there's no incentive. There's nothing fresh inspiring you. There's nothing poking you. And that's what we'll provide them in the next exercises. We'll provide something to stimulate them into bringing new ideas. So what I think people find surprising is that in the projects we do with them is that they usually say, I'm not a creative person. And by the end of some of our sessions, they will say, it's amazing the variety of ideas and the type of ideas we've generated in such a short time. But it's quite simple to do, but still it's pretty much like a, okay, it's pretty much like a chess game. It's difficult to master, although the basics, the rules are quite simple.
Okay, I've closed the room, so Pedro, we're going to probably have to accelerate because we're
1 or 2 minutes behind.
Yeah.
And they're coming back very quickly.
Hello.
Okay. So very quickly, just a few of you guys, if you could provide some feedback, just saying what kind of ideas did you have. I'd like to hear from the wine teams, 1 or 2 ideas from the wine teams.
One of my ideas was, you know how you go to WebMD and you kind of go through the flow chart of what ailment you might have. So I was thinking that'd be kind of cool, having some kind of app or something where you could just step through, okay, what am I going to eat with it? Chicken. So then automatic, but it just kind of gives you a step-by-step process to help you choose a wine.
Yeah, I like that one. Okay, another wine idea. Wine teams.
I have, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
My idea is like to have a QR code to let the customer scan the wine on each bottle and see the comments from other customers, like what they suggest or what to do, how it tastes, like that.
Yeah, yeah. There's one thing called Vivino, and so it's a success. You had a successful idea. It just happened that someone had it before, but you're on the right track. So I'd like to hear from the cheese teams. First burst ideas from someone from the cheese teams.
I'd like to share.
Go ahead.
I was thinking of a detector that stores all my favorite tastes from the past, the food that I love, and then it can scan quickly for all the cheese and find the right taste immediately.
Right, okay, so comparing the taste, the ones that you really appreciated.
Yeah, taste elements, and imagine the taste has colors, right? So
yeah,
you can just see it.
Yeah, I can imagine something working like that, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So someone else from the cheese teams, another contribution. Thank you.
One more contribution quickly.
Well, we spoke about having an expert of some kind who would be the interface between the client and the cheese, because it is very much a strong sense and it's a lifestyle thing. So you can kind of animate it as well. So more than not only giving information about the cheese, kind of animating the cultural context around in which cheese is enjoyed. So that was an initial idea.
Okay, thank you.
Love
one idea from the wine teams. Sorry, from the TV set teams. One idea from the TV set teams.
One that used your senses other than touch to operate it.
Right, okay. In order to choose the different TV sets. Okay, I like that. And one more idea from the TV set teams.
I had you choose which TVs you're interested in the store, and then this robotic device brings them all out in front of you and puts them next to each other, comparing the features that have been dumbed down into kind of layperson's terms, because the technical jargon just is overwhelming.
Right, okay, yeah, that's quite true. So,
for everybody who's not been to a Wednesday Web Jam where Mark has been the Zoom host, I have a cowbell, and that means we need to move on to the next activity. So Pedro, can you roll us into that next ideation activity?
Absolutely. So from the previous one, you probably spotted a few patterns. So ideas that you would say, I heard this idea from cheese, but I can apply it to wine, or I heard it in wine, I can apply it to TV sets. I heard it on TV sets, I can apply it to cheese. And so these patterns are extremely important in ideation for two very good reasons. first, you really can kind of copycat ideas from different worlds, from different industries, from different contexts, from different services. Two, if you don't expand your stock of patterns of ideation, you get locked into only a few patterns. And then that happens a lot in creative industries. You have some creative director that was a genius for 5 or 7 years, and suddenly people say, ah, he's worn out. Nothing good is coming out of him anymore. It's just because the market got tired of that kind of pattern of ideas, and the person did not evolve into different patterns, learning new patterns of ideas. So that's something as a creative person, you need to try yourself and try to evolve. So let's try that by doing the next level. And so the next level is brand ideation, which is very useful when you're working with companies that struggle to see beyond their own industry. And so you need, as a creative team, you need to move not just ideas, but you need to move the stakeholders together with the ideas. And so you have to help stakeholders to embrace and accept ideas. And this one is a really nice one. So we'll be doing brand ideation, again, in our bureau. And so for brand ideation, there's a sequence of brands there. You'll find there Tesla, Disney, Amazon, other brands. And I want you to think, how would those brands help you to solve those problems? If those brands were selling cheese, wine, or TV sets, how do they solve it? And so you might not want to choose Amazon because they actually know how to do it. So go for it, try to use those brands, impersonate those brands in the characteristics that you associate to those brands, and generate ideas around that.
And you're going to get ready to go into your breakout rooms right now. So if anybody has any problems with their breakout rooms, just come back out to the main area here and we'll fix that for you. But I'm going to send everybody back into their breakout rooms. Have fun ideating. And Pedro. Okay. Anybody having any problems with getting into their breakout rooms? Hey, Pedro. And Ezekiel. Perfect.
Yeah, we both ended up in room 12 somehow.
That's where you were put, but I don't know why you went there unless you accepted it at one point. It should.
No, I just.
You never did. It just put you in there. Okay. No problem. So Liz and Daphne, do you guys need help getting into a breakout room? Can you hear my voice? Are you here? Let's see if I can move Daphne just to another random room 5. Okay, let's see if that works. And Liz, that might be rude actually to move them around like that. Okay, anyway, they seem to be somewhere. And not with us. Pedro, I need to start my timer. How much time do we want to give these guys? We're a little bit behind. I'd say we are probably a solid 5 minutes behind. Brand ideation, we should have gone in 7:28. We're almost 10 minutes behind. I can't hear you. What are you thinking?
Sorry, when I came out from the breakout room, I was in silent mode.
So let's give them 4 more minutes.
Yes, agreed.
Because that was supposed to be 6 minutes, and I'll just broadcast a quick message. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so just recently, Pedro, we did this exercise with a client, and at least with the people that I was supporting during the exercise, it was really a new kind of pattern interrupt. So they liked it, but it really made their brain work because they were not used to doing this associative exercise, at least as best as I could tell. It was really interesting.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
What have you observed?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite exercises. So when you bring something like a new brand or even a new business model, and you force them into try to design their own services, in the context of a new brand or a new business process. And so I tell them, like, imagine you are the army, or imagine you are a shopping center, which have very different models from, let's say, from Bacardi Martini or from any other companies we work with. And so they suddenly struggle and try to understand, what do you mean if we are the army? Yeah, how would the army do the business you guys are doing? And that really helps them to see things from a different perspective. And I think that's when people say, how can we think outside the box? And so we just give them a different box. And so here's a new box for you. Go into the new box. So you're outside the old one and inside the new one. And that certainly provides some fresh ideas and helps people to bring something new. However, if we try this as a very first exercise, some people tend to struggle because they start putting obstacles into it. Kind of like, what do you mean I am the army now? We are not the army. And so they try to avoid the exercise. And that's why it's important to try to build creative confidence in a team, step by step. And if you, during this session, working with teams, if you try to understand at what level are they, how receptive are they to try something new, then you can perhaps jump immediately into this level, or most likely, most occasions, I do have to go through the basic levels first to provide some confidence.
Absolutely. How are we doing on time, Mark?
Yeah, we got 1.5 minutes left.
Okay. And I find it very interesting when people suddenly start to understand patterns in ideation, and they understand that if something works for wine, we can apply it for cheese. And you would imagine that this is a very simple step to take. But when you look at different businesses, and they've been doing those businesses for a long, long time, let's say a bank, banks tend to find this very difficult because their business is so regulated, is so standard for such a long time. It's difficult for them to accept some fresh ideas from different industries. And suddenly they see some newcomers breaking their business apart in some situations and stealing some of their business. And so they need to learn how to react to that. And so one way to help them is really trying some of these exercises in their context of their problems. Absolutely.
Okay. I have 30 seconds left and 20 seconds to get this out.
Okay.
How much time? We're fairly behind. Do you want to trim down exercise 4 to 6 minutes again?
Yeah, I think so. And we can also do a faster debrief this time.
Yeah. So if we do that, then we should be right on time if we give them 6 minutes for this next one. So it should be consistent with what we've done in the past.
Right. Okay.
Close the rooms now. Perfect. Cool.
So, and now it's the magic moment when they all come suddenly back. And I believe we have them back. Yes.
Yeah, everybody's back.
So thank you for being back with us. Again, I would like to ask you if you felt there was a difference in the type of ideas you were generating, and just provide me with what couple of ideas from this exercise of brand ideation. Just tell me, what company did you choose, what brand did you choose, and what idea did you have? Waiting for someone to step forward.
So we were one of the cheese groups, and it was a very collaborative experience. And we picked Disney because we felt like cheese is an adventure, and Disney creates that same sort of adventure. So we had a couple of ideas. One was around unlocking the magic of cheese and creating these end-to-end experiences that bring in the whole family, and creating stories around each cheese to tell the whole adventure and the excitement, and give everybody the experience of where the cheese came from.
Right. So Karen, did you feel that by using this example, the type of ideas you generated was substantially different or not from the previous exercise?
We were building on each other's ideas. That was a big difference.
Yeah.
And we were conceptualizing how they would actually look. So being a lot less sort of just throwing things and more thinking about what does it actually look like.
Right, okay, fabulous, thank you.
Pedro, we have time for one more.
One more, only one more example, please. Please do step forward.
Sorry, if we would consider the USA Army, that was a funny, well,
okay.
They would rub bombs on the vineyards and they would steal the wine and they would sell it as theirs.
No, liberate our wine. Not we're not stealing it.
Okay, well, yeah, liberate our wine.
That must have been a fun one. Yeah.
Using the army to do all the crops. That's that sounds innovative to me, and perhaps a good use for the army. So they would do all the crops and help out. That sounds very good to me. Perhaps then the final touch is we'll leave it to the experts, but doing the crops, that might be a good exercise for the army, absolutely. So I'll really have to rush and move to the last exercise. So the last exercise is one that stretches into a different dimension. We bring in the dimension of time. And so I'm bringing some trends. So when you will be back in your mural, you will find 10 different trends that we've placed there for you. And so you might have something like wisdom of the crowd, or artificial intelligence, or the rise of the robots. So all of these different trends. And I want you again to keep solving the same problem, but this time use one of these crazy trends. And hopefully I'm asking you to choose a more aggressive trend, something that you would think, this would be crazy, I don't know, like robots, or I don't know, to try to choose the trend that you'll find a bit more, I would say impossible perhaps. And so have ideas for 2020, and then use the same trend to generate one idea for 2025, and then evolve that idea into 2030. And that's your exercise, go, go, go.
Okay, you'll have 5 to 6 minutes. We'll bring you back in that much time. All right, off you go. See you guys. Radio. And has everybody comfortably gone to their, Daphne, do you need to be put into a room?
I think so, Daphne.
Yeah, she seems to be always joining us. So Pedro, this is a new one for me. I like this one. So how do you see this works compared to the previous, the first burst and the brand ideation?
So this one, when it's well done, it's amazing. Because it provides, when people start to create different ideas based on all of these different trends are kind of a bridge towards the future. And so as a bridge towards the future, you start defining different scenarios for the future. And because the future is not written in stone, you can actually influence the way future will happen. And so if you start envisioning these different scenarios, what will happen then is that you can choose one of the scenarios and say, let's put forward some of these ideas, and we can see how these ideas evolve into the future. And so perhaps we're not there in 2020 or 2021, but we'll have a wonderful scenario for us in 2025. And so you start envisioning what you have to do to come to that scenario in 2025 and spread it all over time. And so you're bringing the dimension of time into ideation. And so that's an interesting perspective. At the same time that you're also using as a stimulus, you're using different trends. And so again, just like brands, trends work as a stimulus to generate different ideas, but the trends bring time as a variable.
So do you use a canvas, or do you do it just like this? Because I can imagine that it would be interesting to like have a timeline so that you can
exactly. So I have I'd say in the European offices, we like to use the one thing we call the futurism maps. And so there's one map towards the past that shows you kind of some events, world events that happened in the past, and then the company has to match what happened to them. When did they have big restructurings or big situations, new products coming out, some new technologies in the past? And then we put all the trends, and then we say, look at your past and try to see how your past will evolve towards the future using the trends as a jumping board. And so you use them just as a platform to jump into the future based on what you've done in the past, and starting from, of course, from the problems you want to solve.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I like it. Yeah. So you look at the past, you kind of see how ideas and technologies and different social trends and cultural trends can evolve. And then you have a dividing line and you say, okay, now push yourself into the future.
Exactly. Using the trends as your platform.
It's like an inverse backcasting, right? It's
exactly. Yeah, it's a forecasting exercise. Yeah. And what is beautiful is that then you might end up in different scenarios, because these trends will push you forward in different directions. And when you start clustering the different ideas, you will find that they tend to cluster around 2 or 3 scenarios. And then the company has to kind of put their bets on how will they understand which of the scenarios is more plausible or more accepted by the market.
When you do that, I'm curious, do you ever talk to the client and get the client's input about the trends, like to customize that activity so that it pushes things in a certain direction? Or do you say specifically, no, I'm not going to do that because you don't want to have their, sort of their finger on the scales of the ideation?
No, I like to work these things together with the client. It has to be very much a co-creation effort. In the end, they have to stand defending their own ideas.
So you do get them to, in some cases, put influence on the trends.
Yeah,
it's interesting. So we have less than a minute. We have 50 seconds.
Okay, I might take that time to try to move myself to a table which has.
You're fine. You're fine. You're fine.
The sunshine is hitting my computer by now, and it's.
There are 9 minutes. There are 9 minutes left, right? To the top of the hour. So we need to do the debrief in about 6 minutes, and then there's
and then the summary.
I'll do the Zemena slide, and then we should be good.
What
you're
feels
fine right there, unless you're just boiling hot.
I might try.
But I am literally closing the breakout room.
Right now. So it should be fine then. Yeah.
Hang in
I
there,
think
buddy.
we're also doing fine in time, I think, by now.
Yes, I've changed the timing, so we should.
So we're adjusted live and.
Hey.
And we have them back. Wonderful.
People here. Why are they here? How did they get in our Zoom meeting? Wednesday Web Jam.
Wednesday Web Jam. Here we are.
Awesome.
So again, I would love to hear from our participants, trying to understand how this exercise bringing 2 variables at the same time. So bringing your trends as a platform to jump into the future, and so bringing also the element of time and how do these ideas evolve over time. So please, someone from Teams, Cheese, TVs, or Wine, could you step forward and give us some examples?
Can we share? I know we shared before.
Yeah, Frankie, go ahead.
So the first one to 2020 is a robot cheese delivered to your home. So it selects the cheese for you. The next future one would be the robot cheese that you can eat. It drives to your mouth. The robot is a robot cheese, drive to your mouth. So that it creates based on what you have eaten.
And in 2030, the robot cheese eats the cheese for you, and
it lives inside your body. It lives inside your body, and then it becomes part of you.
Okay, thank you, Frankie. Could we hear from someone else too? One more, or two more?
I nominate Colin and his encyclopedia cheese idea from our group. Colin, you have to step forward now.
Is that the 5 years of collecting cheese stories, Mimp? Is that the...
the encyclopedia, the robot being the encyclopedia. Yes.
So you have a like you can say, hey Siri, and you ask Siri all the questions. You can say, hey Cheesebot. So maybe it's called Cheesebot, I don't know. But tell me about the blue cheese from southern area of France, and the Cheesebot knows everything. It's like a walking encyclopedia on cheese. So and you can access it in the same way that you access Siri. Hey Cheesebot, is that the one, Mim?
Yeah. And then I think in 2035 we said those cheese bots will be at the cheesemonger, replacing people instead of people knowing all the knowledge. The robots will rise against us.
Let me see if I can get Michael to share his idea, because I think he was sharing one idea in the comments and the chat. Michael,
yes, it was the idea that in 2030, TV as a physical object will no longer exist.
Yeah.
It will be an integration of AI into the brain to create whatever that experience is.
Yeah, it might not be so far away. I mean, we had this false attempt with Google Glasses. Then they moved the glasses towards actually lenses, eye lenses that would also project the same information. And so I think that future might be coming, Michael. It's really something I can imagine 2030 perhaps.
Yeah.
So it's a good jump. And so again, if we can do that with TV sets, then how would we apply it to solve our wine and cheese problems? Then we'd probably see a lot of information augmented reality when in the moment of choosing wine and cheese. And so that might actually be something we would then start to combine in all these different processes. One last idea very, very quickly, if anyone would like to share it in 30 seconds. 25 seconds. 22 seconds.
We also had an idea about a robot that learned your cheese likes and then created a cheese for you in the future.
All right. Okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. That I can imagine how, let's say, from a cheese maker, how would the cheesemaker use some robotic technology then to learn from clients and trying to then provide a cheese by demand, let's say? Then you would say, I want a cheese for me. So who are you? And the robot would try to understand who is this person and then define an industrial process, a small batch production that the cheesemaker would say, "Okay, delivery in 3 months, or perhaps in 18 months, just depending on what type of cheese you end up with." Okay, that's an interesting one. I like it too. So let me now make a short summary before we close our session. So when I look at ideation, I tend to think of it a bit like chess. And chess, when you're learning chess, you learn how to move the pieces around the board. And so you know how to move the bishop and the pawn and the knight and your queen, but you don't understand chess. And with the basic, these basic methods for ideation, what's happening now is we're just learning how to move the pieces around the board. So we still don't know how to use it from a tactical and strategic perspective, which is what happens in chess when you start to evolve. You start to play the game in a more tactical way, and then finally at a more strategic level. That takes years of experience, and chess players need to learn a horrendous amount of patterns on what's happening on the board. And modern chess players can actually play it at an amazing speed. And so online tournaments usually are now played with 3 minutes for each chess player to move their pieces. And so if they exhaust their time, game over, they lost it. So it's a huge difference from the 7-hour games or 2-day games that we used to have only 30 years ago. And so these patterns are extremely important. You need to build your library of patterns inside your head and learn how to play with it. So different ideas belong in different patterns. Then when you see a different idea, you say, oh, that idea matches a pattern I already have. So if you start to understand all those patterns and when to bring them forward, you start to apply them tactically. And what is this about applying tactically and strategically? You have to move from just generating ideas into thinking these ideas need to survive in an environment of stakeholders. And then you need to think, okay, how will these stakeholders move these ideas forward? And so you're not just creating an idea, you're creating the space for these ideas to survive. You're also creating a creative confidence for these stakeholders to go through the process of ideation with you. And finally, you need to be able to bring it all together into the marketplace. Otherwise, it's not an invention, it's not innovation, it's not really making money. And so with these words, I'll pass on to Mark because we're almost at the top of the hour.
Well done, Pedro. Good summary. Thank you very much. So we are getting ready to go into what we call the backstage. So that will be an additional 30 minutes for digging into this topic of ideation. And we can talk about how you might do that with different clients on different projects and things like that. But before we do that, let's take a big picture of the whole group. And I think Yun-Yen, you had an idea of how we want to do that? Just have everybody go crazy and smile and do
yes, of course.
gestures or something like that?
We've got 3 groups. We've got wine, cheese, and TV set group. Okay,
Yeah.
Take a posture. Take a posture with your object in 2030. Okay, and Ezekiel will help us make a picture. I'm going to count down 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Please, Ezekiel, take the picture.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. And I will put in the chat the invitation for you guys to link with us on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Thanks, Yun-Yen. So before we go into the backstage, just want to introduce Ximena, who is our one of our social media mavens and people that do awesome things. And she will be our guest speaker next week to dig into what were sort of lessons learned and inspiration from the Wednesday Web Jams, some of the things that we're doing in other tents. Okay, so your Wednesday Web Jam is one of our tents for the circus of fun that we have put together. So Ximena will be sharing some of those thoughts next week. So join us then. And I guess you guys who have been here before know the drill. We're gonna move into the backstage now. And this is just a casual, open, unstructured conversation where everybody can unmute themselves when they want to. Let's talk about ideation and what that activity was like and any questions you guys have for Pedro or anybody else as he walks around and finds a place with some shade because he was really hot. Apparently it's like 33 degrees or something like that in Portugal.
And okay. That feels great. And here we are in the backstage. So thank you very much for coming over in this fast speed sequence of events. It was really a bit fast. So now we actually thought, okay, we'll do it very, very, very quickly. And now we take a deep breath and we can actually try to understand what happened. And so I would like first to ask how it felt for some of you, given that we went through the exercises at a breakneck speed. And so how was it for you in terms of going through these different levels of complexity in the ideation? and bringing all these different variables as stimulus to bring different types of ideas, and then playing a bit around with understanding that perhaps some of the methods also play with variables, like bringing you into timelines into the future, but also we could have explored into dimensions of problems and saying, let's attack just a very, very tiny problem at a supermarket, or let's just try to solve the whole supermarket, or let's try to solve something even bigger. So trying to understand, how did it feel for you, if it was interesting or not?
Can I just say something? Because I'm from wine business. And so for me, it was quite interesting because having a wine business background, it was a completely different approach. And it was very, very interesting because it's to think wine in a way that I worked on wine business for years and I never thought about it in that way. So congratulations, it was great, it was fantastic. And in fact, it creates, yeah, it was very, very, very interesting. Thank you, Pedro.
Thank you. I'll keep preparing another port tonic while I listen to other feedbacks.
I think that you left me hanging like for more, because you mentioned that, so once you have the creative ideas, how you make them survive with the stakeholders. Will there be a second part?
Hey man, I couldn't hear you well, sorry. There was some background noise for me.
All right, so like, at the end you mentioned that once you have these creative ideas, you also have to make it happen, like survive with the stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
So what would be like the next step on that sense?
Yeah, so when we do sessions with clients, there's a first level where we work perhaps just with 1 or 2 or 3 different types of stakeholders in the ideation sequence. And so we're leaving out a large number of stakeholders. Hopefully we're working with some of the most relevant ones, but perhaps not. And so at least with those, they have to believe in the ideas that they are creating. So all of these different moments of building confidence in the ideas that they're generating and bringing in some research and trying to help them to take confidence in these ideas that they have to stretch themselves more. That certainly is part of it. And then the next step is about testing. If you very quickly do some testing out there in the market for your ideas, you can bring those results and then finally involve more stakeholders. We also do something we call the stakeholder value map, which is something that we try to evaluate, okay, what will different stakeholders think of it? So we just do a draft version, and then we actually go and talk with the stakeholders to confirm our opinions. So the first draft one is just to prepare ourselves, and then the real thing, we'll see what happens. But when we go for the real thing with those different stakeholders, we should bring some data from tests. And so that certainly helps to pave some of the way into ideation. By the way, total disclaimer, I'm not working with supermarkets, so this is not research with you guys to get ideas, not at all. But I have worked with supermarkets recently in 2019. And what was interesting is that the main challenge we tried to apply was so I actually split the teams in 2. So I had one team saying, these guys here will try to develop ideas to make the physical business very good and attractive and the main drive for the business. And the other team had to try to develop the digital business and make the digital business the main business for the supermarket. So they were kind of competing for the same clients, or perhaps not. They would actually gain different clients in the end. But what was interesting is that a lot of the ideas that were generated, they were struggling to accept those ideas themselves. So they actually blocked some of the ideas. And they didn't want to test those ideas even. So they had the ideas, then they didn't have the courage to trust those ideas because they were going so much against their concepts. And so that project had some success, and some failure for me. And then COVID came in 2020. And suddenly those ideas were desperately in need. And they were furious with themselves that they didn't test and implement those in 2019. And so, because now they had really to have a strong online business, which they didn't have. So they were not prepared for this COVID moment. And then, of course, I did my best not to rub it on their face, because that's not something you should do to people. But I certainly thought that I failed because I didn't help them enough in those sessions. So I didn't manage to move them into testing, and that was my failure there.
Hey, Pedro, there's a question that if I and Frankie asked the question that's related to, like, where does ideation fit into the design thinking process, right? Like, what happens before ideation, and tell us a little bit about what happens after, because like you framed the how might we statement that we were going to use, and you brought the research in the research. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so very briefly, there's what we call the two diamonds of the double diamond model. So the first diamond is all about trying to understand context of the problem. So what problem do you want to solve? Even you start with a briefing. A lot of times the briefing is wrong in the way that the company thinks there's one problem we should address. Then we do the research and we say, well, actually, the real problems are quite different. And so then we say, okay, these are the real problems we should be solving. Once we agree on that, we move into ideation, and that's the second diamond, the diamond of solutions. And so in the diamond of solutions, there's two main components. One is all about generating ideas. The other one is all about then testing them and prototyping them, trying to actually make them more detailed. And those which survive all the prototyping and testing sequences then might end up going into live mode. So this would be the sequence. And it's in this sequence that it's very relevant to think in terms of how to be creative. It's not just about generating ideas. It's also about how do you involve your stakeholders? How do you try to understand the industry you're working for? And how do you bring the whole company into these new concepts? Because that's the hard part. A client I'm working with right now, they all accept the ideas, and they're all running away from the ideas except two people in the team. And they're afraid of the ideas. They're afraid of trying them. They know that the ideas will disrupt the way they're working now, but they also understand that they have to change the way they work now because it won't last in the future. But it's just this syndrome of they don't want to change and they hope for the best. And that's very common. And so what we are trying to do is not just involving these different stakeholders, we're involving also some stakeholders that were not perhaps involving in the beginning. And so we're providing now some fresh data from the market because we tested the ideas, even if some of the stakeholders were blocking the options for testing. And we're also bringing management, top management, to bring some extra boost in confidence about the need to change and the need to evolve into different concepts. And so when we're generating ideas, we need to understand that some ideas are about the service or the product, but some ideas are about how to involve people, and some ideas are about thinking of the future. And so all of these different formats are extremely helpful. Also, and I keep repeating this today, but it's quite relevant, is about your ability to learn new patterns in ideation. So if you stick to the same type of ideas, and you see that when you think, let's invite this person because this person usually has this kind of ideas, or let's invite that one because he has that kind of ideas. And so this is a different way to say they will bring a given pattern of ideas. And in the way you work, if you look back to the type of ideas you had or to the type of ideas you keep generating, you will realize you're sticking to a given pattern of ideas. And you need to evolve and grow that pattern of ideas before you become obsolete and you stop having new, fresh ideas. And so that's extremely common in the agency world, in advertising, where people kind of burn out after 5 or 7 or 10 years the most, because they've used up their patterns, and their patterns don't make sense anymore. And
See what
so,
other
but
questions we have
it's
from folks?
Or other experiences? How
Yeah.
did you do it?
Yeah, I would be curious to hear from Colin. How do you bring your theater background into building creative confidence or helping people embrace the new?
But I she's equal. I kind of talk about it a lot. I'm, you know, the theatre is preoccupied with the closeness of the living organism, and that's what's been taken away in this context online. And so I'm really interested in how we can compensate for that through that the performative aspect of our engagement. So you know, that's, I don't know if that answers it. What you're asking, Ezekiel, we use our physicality, we use our bodies in the way that we explore the world and gather information, and how can we use our physicality and our bodies and bring it into the conversations and into the design process.
Yeah,
So,
and that's yet another pattern for generating ideas. Yeah, and that will certainly bring different ideas. Absolutely.
Storytelling, role playing,
exactly.
Yeah, simulation, embodiment, embodied empathy.
I look back at. Go ahead, Dana.
I was just going to say that reminded me of a training I went through months ago where there was role playing, but no one knew what the outcome was going to be. So it's kind of like, you know, when you start a story and then someone takes it to the next step and then someone takes it to the next step from there. So it was a role playing, but was open-ended, and people just kind of fulfilled certain roles. So for example, we were working on, say like at a McDonald's, someone ordering something from a robot, or at a hotel. Well, did you consider someone having an accent? So then someone would come in and just throw bombs in different scenarios while role playing the different aspects. So that's what, that kind of addresses what you were saying, Colin. There's people got physical, but it was also problem solving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are the comments from the rest of the community? How was it today for you? So even in just the mechanics of today, was it too fast? Was it, because we tried something today, which was, let's go through a very fast-paced hour and see how it goes with a very tight schedule. Jennifer.
I found it to be fast, yes, but sometimes time boxing things can add that level of constraint and that level of feeling anxious, in that, oh, I have to at least write down one idea in the 3 minutes that I'm giving. So I think that can be used as a design tool to help bring out the creativity, because I'm kind of a believer in expand the problem space, but constrain the design space, or vice versa. I can't remember how that saying goes, but that's, I think having those constraints on a team is a good thing.
Sorry, I was on mute myself. Absolutely. I totally agree with you. That we tried today to do this very fast-paced thing and see how it would go. And so I'm probably one of the worst people in managing time. I just like to let things flow. That's my personal style. But if I have to, I can definitely do a lot of time boxing, although it feels unnatural to me. Yeah, especially because I like to talk so much, and so that's certainly put some limits on me. So, any other comments on how this hour went for you? You see?
Yeah. Well, in that sense, we're pretty much the opposite. You can check out last week's sessions for more information. But related to today, I felt that kind of the setup for the whole exercise was too complicated. That the flow worked well, but it would have maybe worked better with a simpler prompt. Just have like
one challenge.
How you would like sell wine or something like just the product or something super simple for the first thing, because I at least felt kind of frozen in the start, like how am I supposed to fit my like random ideas into this like framework here or these specific things. But kind of once we got the thing rolling, then it flowed really well.
Yeah.
So it feels like it would work much better with a simpler prompt at the start.
Yeah, we certainly we were trying to discuss we should definitely have just one challenge instead of 3 and making it simpler. And then we wanted to really compare patterns of ideas between the different groups and see how they would overlap or not, because you're solving for cheese and wine and TV sets. And surprisingly, in the end, some of the ideas do overlap, and so you do find these patterns. And so we'll be giving you all back the output as a PDF of that mural, and so you will be able also then to look back at it and try to figure out, is there really a pattern? What were other teams trying to do? And of course, there were teams with more people than others, and so there will be some of the murals will have more ideas than others. That's perfectly normal. But it was certainly a complex exercise. I totally agree with you, Jussi, and I'm fully to blame for it. And so, but I do, sometimes we do need to, I thought I'll use this hour and test it and see how it goes. Can we do something as complex as this? And so, curious. Yeah, I would, in a second go, I would do it simpler. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious, Pedro, I have a question for the audience. There are a lot of practitioners, innovation consultants and designers and design thinkers and so forth in our group. I'm interested in somebody's favorite ideation technique, because we saw 3. The first burst is like the generic get all the ideas out of your head so that you can go to the next level. But does anybody have an ideation technique they'd like to share that's different than those 3?
I'll go. My favorite is to use the bad idea technique. So tell me what's your worst idea you can come up with to solve this problem. I like it because it initially creates the safe space to begin with. I mean, how can you criticize a bad idea when that's what you're supposed to give, right?
Right.
And it sets the stage.
Other suggestions?
Thank you.
I like that one too. Thank you. Jen?
I like the De Bono random word or random entry technique, where you pick a random word and then you try and solve using that word. So you kind of draw, there's a random word generator, pick a word and then say, well, how do we use that word to solve this problem? So it just unblocks that kind of, this is how we think, to go, well, how do I use that in this problem? Right. It's really cool.
I like that one, yes.
We've done that, just building on that, we've had one of our co-facilitators that does that technique, but they ask people it during a physical workshop. You could also do it in a virtual workshop. You ask people to go away and take a walk and observe your surroundings for something really unusual, and then bring a Post-it note with you and write on the back of the Post-it note that unusual thing that you observed. So it kind of gets people thinking about observation as well. And you bring all the people back in the room, and you remember, you write on the back of the Post-it note, and then you put all the Post-it notes up on the wall, and then you go randomly pull 2 words off, and you're supposed to then ideate based on those 2 combined words, right? So it's also an interesting way to do it, building on that same thing.
I have a wonderful question from Eva Berm on our on the chat.
I've been getting stuck lately with the online brainstorming. I loved it at
Yeah.
first because of Miro and the whole infinite whiteboard thing, and now I'm getting very annoyed with not seeing people and not knowing what they're thinking and not feeling the energy. And I always try to put as much in there as I can, but like this session, it's okay for me because I've been in brainstorming and design thinking for a little while. But people that don't know anything about it, they just get stuck and they don't know what to do, and they freak out, and then you don't have enough time to do all of the exercises that you want to do. So I feel like it's a lot slower online, and
It is.
gets the pace out of there, and I have no clue how to solve this.
Yeah, so Eva, sharing some experience also with you. First of all, I don't have answers for your questions. And so, but I do share the feeling that it's way slower, perhaps about twice as much slower. And even today we were having a conversation because we were doing a session for a Swiss bank. We're doing 10 sessions for them. And first session of 4 different moments. We spent the first moment, it was 2.5 hours. We spent 25 minutes just onboarding people. You know, so you're, okay, now are you on? You're on mute, and no, you're not in Mural yet. I can see you, I cannot see you, and then they would say, no, I'm logging in from my cell phone. How do I now get into? Oh crap! You need another device. So 25 minutes. So then now we're saying for the second sessions, we need half an hour extra just to onboard people. But we do realize it takes longer, much longer, definitely. It's way more difficult to manage energy. We need more facilitators also. We need facilitators per team. When you're in a real life room, I've managed teams. I've managed a session with 45 people alone, although they were Norwegians, and Norwegians are absolutely wonderful, so that you can really manage them so well. They're the kindest people I've met ever. So easy to work with. I wouldn't manage that in Portugal or Italy or Spain. We Latins are terrible. We just start chatting around, so it's impossible to manage us. But live, online, no. You need to make smaller teams also to let everyone talk and be able to understand what everyone is trying to say. You don't have the moments for parallel talks, and so things slow down because everything that has to be said for everyone at the same time. So everything slows down, and I feel ideal size team might be 4 only instead of 5 or 6, and 1 facilitator for each team of 4 or 5. Then it becomes really expensive. But indeed, it is quite different. But I don't have answers. I just have these experiences to share with you.
Well, I think
smaller groups and less ambition, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, smaller groups, and then I think Ezekiel also mentioned that it's kind of unavoidable that you need to prepare people and onboard people for the technology, regardless of, you know, if you don't do that, you're gonna have a lot slower process. And then I think making sure that you, depending on what context you're in, that you connect what happened before ideation very clearly to whatever that ideation technique is, and then connect it to what's coming next, right? I mean, that's a basic rule for running any kind of design process. But I think in general, time slows down or speeds up. You get in a time warp situation, so you have to figure out ways to bend the virtual sort of time-space continuum in some ways. But it basically is you're always going to need more time online, and then I think being just like super deliberate about preparing people rehearsing what you're doing with somebody other than yourself, and ideally you're working with a co-facilitator, and making sure that your attention for details in the online space is like 10x what you need in a real world, so in physical place, because in the physical you have a lot more inputs, and it's the resolution of the feedback you get by is super high, whereas in the flat space that you're looking at on a screen, you have very little feedback, to your point. So it's much less forgiving for any kind of adaptability. Your adaptability quotient goes way down. So just my thoughts on that.
Thank Jennifer Summer, last question perhaps.
Yeah, so I'm currently in that process. Started working for a company in October and was brought on to bring design thinking and a center of excellence and all that to a software development firm. And then COVID hit, and so I had to rethink all of my whole design thinking presentation and workshop to an online version, and I've struggled with that while I'm also working on projects as the UX team of one. So it's been really difficult. I can't even get people to share their cameras. So just trying to add, but what I've thought about is, okay, this is a design problem. I need to rethink and redesign the way I teach people design thinking and get the buy-in. And so that's been a challenge for me, but I've been working on that. And I just treat all of these things as new constraints, which then gets my brain synapses firing at all cylinders. So, I can't always get all the ideas out of my head and into prototypes quickly enough. But yeah, that's kind of how I'm approaching it right now. Yeah. And I'm seeing some progress, but it's slow. Yeah.
Yeah, it becomes slower. Yeah, absolutely. Also, I think it's a good chance to to give some homework, and so sessions become smaller, and between sessions you have more homework perhaps. And so having time as a group and time individually, and that might, it's working with us in some scenarios. And so it might be also a good way to move forward and gain some time back from what is lost now. Yeah.
Excellent. All right, so we are at the bottom of the hour, and I would just like to thank everybody. It's great to have you here in the Wednesday Web Jam. It's a moment that I think many of us kind of block out in their calendar and look forward to. And we absolutely love seeing everybody, all our friends back here. Invite your friends. We hope to expand the tribe as we move through the summer and into the fall. Every week we got something coming. Next week, remember, it's Jimena from our own tribe, going to talk to us a little bit about how people are taking what they've learned in these 20 sessions and what they're doing with it. So it's going to be great fun. All right, everybody, let's give each other a hug. Here, what I want you to do is stand up if you can, do one of these things and do one of these things, and just do a big virtual hug, okay?
Ezekiel, you're not doing the big hug. Okay.
With lots of love.
I was trying to set up the photo.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
Great job.
Yeah. And thank you for putting up with me today. Thank you.
Great job.
You are lovely, Pedro.
Everybody. Bye.
Thank you all. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you next week.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Pedro.